At my wedding, my groom announced that he was placing all of his premarital assets into an irrevocable trust for his mother. Furthermore, from now on, he would be transferring $4,000 to her every single month as a living allowance. The entire ballroom was moved to tears. Guests praised him, calling him a devoted and loving son. I merely chuckled, took the microphone, and said exactly one sentence. The room literally exploded and then froze in shock. The final chord of the wedding march had just faded. The MC was about to hand the microphone to me and Vaughn, but Vaughn suddenly stepped forward, beating him to it. Before we begin the reception, I have an important announcement to make. Vaughn's voice echoed through the speakers across the luxury Chicago hotel ballroom. The hum of 300 guests gradually died down. I stood next to him in my pristine white wedding gown, bouquet in hand, maintaining the requisite bridal smile. But deep down, a vague unease began to brew. This was supposed to be the most important day of my life. Vaughn turned to me with a tender look. But a second later, his eyes shifted to his mother sitting at the head table. I will never forget who denied herself everything to raise me and put me through college. It is only because of her that I am the man I am today. His mother, my soon-to-be mother-in-law Lorraine, dabbed the corners of her eyes with a tissue, projecting the ultimate image of a deeply moved parent. Vaughn took a deep breath, and his voice rose sharply. I officially announced that all my premarital assets, including 2 condos, my stock portfolio, and my savings, are being placed into a trust entirely in my mother's name. Dead silence hung in the ballroom at first, followed by erupting, thunderous applause. A few older relatives even stood up, shouting, "Good job, Vaughn! That's a real son!" You don't see young men taking care of their mothers like this anymore. The smile on my face froze. A ringing emptiness formed in my head. Signing over all his assets to his mother? Vaughn seemed extremely pleased with the crowd's reaction. He raised a hand, calling for quiet, and continued. And that's not all. Starting next month, I will consistently transfer $4,000 a month to my mom's account to help with her living expenses, as a small token of gratitude for everything she's done for me. Wow, $4,000. Vaughn's salary was about $10,000 a month after taxes. Talk about filial duty. But what are they going to live on? Amidst the whispers of the guests, Lorraine was now openly sobbing. Leaning on relatives, she stood up and reached her arms out to her son. Vaughn walked over and hugged her. Mother and son were playing out a grand, touching drama under the spotlights. My hands were shaking. I could barely hold my bouquet. I felt like a stranger at my own celebration, just a stage prop in a ridiculous play. Sloan, you support my decision, right? Vaughn finally remembered I existed, turned around, and held out the microphone. His eyes showed complete confidence. You always said what you loved most about me was my sense of responsibility and how I care for my loved ones. The eyes of the entire room locked onto me. I saw my parents sitting at their table, their faces pale. My best friend Greer covered her mouth with her hand, eyes wide. Vaughn's relatives looked at me with expressions that said, "Let's see how reasonable you are. Support him? Support the fact that you have zero respect for me, your wife? Support the fact that you are completely destroying our future financial foundation? Support the fact that you'll be giving nearly half your paycheck to your mother, while we have to pay the mortgage, buy groceries, and eventually raise kids?" I took the microphone. My knuckles were white from the tension. Vaughn looked at me confidently. His mother had also stopped crying, waiting for me to publicly agree and help them cement his status as the greatest, most respectful son of the century. I smiled. It wasn't a fake smile of joy, but a genuine smile born from the realization of the absolute absurdity of the situation. I raised the microphone. The spotlight hit my white dress. It was so quiet in the hall, you could hear the HVAC system humming. Since that is the case, my voice rang out calmly and clearly. Then I also have an announcement to make. I turned to Vaughn, looking at the brief flash of confusion in his eyes, and enunciated every syllable. The wedding is canceled. We are breaking up. The dead silence lasted for 3 seconds, and then the room erupted. Breaking up? Canceling the wedding right at the reception? The whispers instantly morphed into a loud roar. My mom and dad jumped up from their seats. Their shock was replaced by alarm. My dad even took a step toward me, but my mom held his arm. They understood that I couldn't back down now. The smile on Vaughn's face instantly vanished, giving way to incredulous anger. "Sloan, have you lost your mind?" Today is our wedding. It was our wedding, I corrected him, my voice carrying to every corner of the room. Since you've clearly chosen your mother as your life partner, I have no intention of being the third wheel here. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Lorraine had already dropped the mask of the weeping, touched mother, and marched angrily toward me. Vaughn loves his mother. What's wrong with that? Isn't that a virtue? How can you, as a woman, be so shameless? I switched the microphone to my other hand and looked her dead in the eye. Respecting your parents is a virtue, but blind enmeshment is stupidity. Lorraine, your son is 30 years old, not 3. He's giving you all his assets and $4 grand every single month. And what is our family supposed to do? Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to pay the daily expenses? When kids come along, what money will we use to buy diapers and formula? You little gold digger, are you trying to settle scores with me? Lorraine turned pale with rage. I'm just stating facts. I turned to Vaughn. His face had turned to stone. Did you consult me before making this decision? Did you ask for my opinion? Or do you think that just because we're getting married, I have to unconditionally accept your terms, including acting as an extra in your little theatrical performance about being the perfect son? Vaughn opened his mouth but couldn't find an answer. Obviously, he hadn't expected me to make a scene in front of so many people. Sloan, stop being hysterical. He finally found his voice. His tone softened in an attempt to salvage the situation. We can discuss this at home. Today is our wedding. There are so many guests watching. Oh, now you remember what embarrassment feels like? I scoffed, my voice turning icy. When you publicly announced you were handing everything over to Mommy, you didn't think about my humiliation, nor did you think about our future life together. Vaughn, I get it now. You don't need a wife. You need a supporting actress for your drama about epic filial love. Sloan, he growled. The room was already in chaos. Vaughn's relatives were jumping out of their seats, accusing me of being tactless. To cause such a scene at a wedding. To disgrace both families. Is it Vaughn's fault he loves his mom? If you won't marry a guy like that, who will you marry? My family and friends didn't hold back either. Loving your mom is normal, but this is pathological. They aren't even married yet, and he's hiding assets and draining his income. How is Sloan supposed to live with him? He's the ultimate mama's boy. The MC stood helplessly to the side, trying a few times to intervene and smooth things over, but no one paid him any attention. My best friend Greer rushed onto the stage, stood next to me, and loudly declared, Sloan is right. Marriage is between two people. Vaughn, did you even think about her feelings? The down payment for the River North condo you bought as your marital home, Sloan's family paid half of it? And now you're saying you're putting it in a trust for your mother? That means her parents' money just went straight to your mom. Those words acted like a bombshell. The bride's family gave half the down payment? Then half the condo belongs to her parents. How could he sign it over to his mother? That's basically theft. Vaughn's face turned crimson. He hadn't expected Greer to bring that up in front of everyone. The condo we planned to make our home cost $750,000. The down payment was $150,000, of which my parents had gifted us $75,000. We had agreed that both our names would be on the deed. I would have paid that money back, Vaughn stammered, trying to justify himself. When? How? I pressed. You'll be giving your mom $4 grand a month with what's left, paying the mortgage, and buying groceries. Where exactly are you going to pull $75,000 from to pay my parents back? Are you going to pay them with your Son of the Year certificate? Laughter rippled through the room, quickly drowned out by the angry shouts of the groom's relatives. Enough! Lorraine suddenly shrieked, pointing a finger at me. I knew you were a piece of work. You haven't even officially joined the family and you're already calculating how to divide our property. My son is an incredible catch. You should be lucky to marry him, but you've humiliated him at his own wedding. If that's how it is, then there won't be a wedding. That is exactly what I want, I replied evenly. I turned to the MC. Sir, please announce that the wedding is canceled. However, the catering is paid for. Consider this a free dinner on me. All monetary gifts and registry items will be returned in full. With that, I pulled off my veil right in front of everyone. Then, I slid the expensive diamond engagement ring off my finger. Vaughn had saved for 6 months to buy it, and at the time, I had been moved to tears. Now, it just felt like a mockery. I pressed the ring back into Vaughn's palm. He stared at me, stunned, as if he still couldn't believe this was actually happening. Vaughn, as of today, nothing ties us together anymore, I stated clearly. I expect the $75,000 down payment to be returned to my family within a week. As for the rest, my lawyer will contact you. Lawyer? What lawyer? Vaughn finally snapped out of his daze. Panic crept into his voice. Sloan, don't do this. We can talk about this normally. I can reverse my decision. There is no need. I cut him off. I turned to the guests and offered a slight bow. I apologize for making you witness this ugly scene. I am covering half the banquet costs today. Please, enjoy the food. After those words, I grabbed Greer's hand, lifted the hem of my heavy gown, and decisively walked off the stage. Sloan, stop, come back, Vaughn yelled after me. I didn't look back. My parents hurried over to me. My mom's eyes were red. My dad looked at me with a complex expression. Sweetheart, are you absolutely sure? I'm sure. I squeezed my parents' hands tightly. I don't want a marriage like this. The three of us, followed by the gazes of the crowd, walked out of the ballroom. Right at the doors, I turned and cast one last glance at Vaughn. He stood in a tight circle of his mother and relatives, watching me. His eyes a mix of anger, confusion, and perhaps a drop of regret. But it was too late. We walked out of the hotel. The afternoon Chicago sun momentarily blinded me. I took a deep breath. My dress practically glowed in the daylight. Where to now? Greer asked. Home first. To change, I said, and after a pause added, and then to a lawyer. Are you seriously hiring a lawyer? Absolutely. I adjusted the ruffled layers of my dress. It's not just about getting the down payment back. I want to make sure I sever every single legal and financial tie with that man, once and for all. My phone started vibrating relentlessly. I glanced at the screen. Vaughn was calling. I declined the call and powered off the device. From today on, there was no longer a person named Vaughn in Sloane's life. Returning home, I changed into a simple t-shirt and jeans. The wedding dress lay carelessly on the living room sofa, looking like a massive, wilted white flower. Mom sat next to it, eyes red. Dad was on the patio, smoking cigarette after cigarette. Mom, don't cry. I sat next to her and hugged her. We should be celebrating. I dodged a massive bullet. But you're 30, Mom sniffled. It's better to break up at 30 than to get a messy divorce at 40 with a kid in tow, I replied calmly. Besides, we hadn't signed the marriage license yet. Legally, this isn't a divorce. It's just a breakup. Dad walked into the room, bringing the smell of tobacco with him. About the down payment. Are you really going to demand it back? Of course I am, I said firmly. $75,000 isn't pocket change. That's your savings from half a lifetime of work. And it's not even about the money. It's the principle. But if we make a huge legal stink, things will get incredibly nasty with his family, Dad sighed. He didn't leave me a choice, and he certainly didn't care about my reputation when he publicly announced he was giving everything to his mommy, I scoffed. Dad, think about it. If I had stayed quiet today, what would my life be like? He makes $10K a month. He gives $4K to his mother. $4K goes to the mortgage and HOA. We'd have to live on the remaining $2K and somehow save up to pay you back? My salary would cover literally all family needs, emergencies, and eventually kids. Is that a life? Mom wiped her tears. Her gaze hardened. Our daughter is right. You cannot marry a man like that. We are getting that $75,000 back down to the last cent. Say something, honey. She looked at Dad. Dad stayed silent for a few seconds and finally nodded. All right, I support you. But getting the money back won't be easy. We need a plan. I already have one. I stood up. Greer set up an appointment with a lawyer she knows, Mr. Sterling. I'm heading to his office in the Loop now. You guys are exhausted. Rest. Let me handle this. I'll go with you, Mom insisted, still anxious. No need. I've got this. I kissed her cheek. Trust me. Before leaving, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were a little swollen, but my gaze was resolute. You did the right thing, Sloan, I told myself. Mr. Sterling's office was on the 28th floor of a sleek downtown high-rise. Seeing me, the attorney looked a bit surprised. Sloan, weren't you supposed to get married today? The wedding is canceled, I explained briefly, cutting straight to the chase. Mr. Sterling, I need your help to recover funds and legally shield myself from my ex-fiancé. After hearing the whole story, the lawyer adjusted his glasses. The situation is straightforward. The $75,000 down payment. We have the Zelle and wire transfer records, plus text messages. Under Illinois law, this is considered a conditional gift in contemplation of marriage. Since the wedding was canceled, the condition wasn't met. You have every right to demand the funds be returned. How much can I get back? Theoretically, the entire amount. Sterling paused. However, if the other party refuses, we'll have to file a civil suit. Given the amount and the clarity of the paper trail, I recommend sending a formal demand letter first. Good, send it, I replied without hesitation. Furthermore, the lawyer added, you had joint expenses during the relationship, gifts to each other. Do we need to account for those? I thought about it. No. The small things don't matter. I just want the down payment back, plus an Omega watch I bought him. It cost about $5,000. I bought it with my year-end bonus. I still have the receipt. Understood. We'll draft the demand letter and send it out today, directly to his workplace. His workplace? I raised an eyebrow. Yes, that kind of pressure usually yields faster results. Sterling smiled faintly. And I advise you to be careful. People backed into a corner are sometimes capable of anything. Thanks for the warning. I'll be careful. Leaving the lawyer's office, I turned my phone back on. Instantly, I was hit by dozens of missed calls and unread iMessages, mostly from Vaughn, but also from mutual friends and his relatives. I opened Vaughn's voicemails. The last one was sent 10 minutes ago. Sloan, pick up the phone. Let's talk. I acted impulsively today. I can fix everything. I won't put the condo in a trust for my mom. And we can negotiate the monthly allowance. Please pick up. He had gone from rage to begging. Clearly, having cooled down, he realized the consequences and got scared. I sent him a single text. There is nothing to talk about. Return the $75,000 for the down payment and the Omega watch within 7 days, or I'll see you in court. All future communication goes through my lawyer. His contact info will follow. The reply came instantly. Are you really going to be this heartless? 5 years together, and you're ready to throw it all away? You were the heartless one when you announced to 300 people that you were giving our marital assets to your mommy. I typed back, and then blocked his number. Then I dealt with the rest of the messages. To mutual friends who tried to play peacemaker, I sent a standard reply. Thanks for your concern. We broke up. Please don't try to convince me otherwise. I simply deleted and blocked the relatives sending curses and insults. When I finished, I let out a deep breath, but a hollow feeling formed in my chest. 5 years. From 25 to 30. I had given my best years to this man. To say it didn't hurt would be a lie. But compared to the prospect of spending a decade navigating that twisted family dynamic, the pain was temporary. Sloan. I looked up. It was Greer. She was walking toward me carrying a takeout bag. Brought you food. Knew you wouldn't have eaten. So? What did the lawyer say? She asked as I took the bag. He has a week to return the money. Or we sue, I explained briefly. Thanks. You're a lifesaver. Of course we've been friends forever. Greer slung an arm over my shoulder. But brace yourself. Vaughn's mom is a total snake. I heard that after you left the hotel, she threw a massive tantrum, cursing your name to anyone who would listen. Expected. I bit into my avocado toast. Let her curse. It doesn't affect me. And another thing, Greer lowered her voice. I heard Vaughn's dad walked out on them when he was little, and his mom raised him alone. That's why he's so enmeshed with her. We used to think it was just him being a good son, but now it's obvious it's completely toxic. I smiled bitterly. Yeah, I always thought he just cared about family. Until today, I didn't realize it wasn't love. It was a weird codependency. She can't live without him, and he can't set a boundary with her. And I was just the outsider. My phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. I answered it. It was Vaughn, calling from someone else's phone. Sloan, let's meet. Just for a minute. Just to talk. Please. I'm standing outside your building. I walked to the window and looked down. Sure enough, Vaughn was standing by the planter boxes, holding that exact same bridal bouquet. The irony. There's no point. Everything has been said, I answered coldly. Just 10 minutes. I'm begging you. I really realize I messed up. I'll undo all my declarations. Let's start over, please. Vaughn, I said calmly. You still don't understand what the problem is. It's not about whether you can take your words back or not. It's about how and why you made that decision in the first place. You don't see me as an equal partner. I'm just an NPC in the script of your life. I don't want a relationship like that. A long silence hung on the line. Finally, he spoke. I don't have the $75,000 right now. The money is with my mom. She put it into a CD. I can't withdraw it that fast. That sounds like a you problem, I replied ruthlessly. You have a week. If you're late, I file a lawsuit and ask the court to place a lien on your property. Your accounts, your car, the condo, everything will be frozen. You know I don't make empty threats. Sloan, don't back me into a corner. You backed me into a corner at our wedding. I hung up and blocked the number. Greer gave me a thumbs up. Badass. But aren't you worried he might do something stupid out of desperation? What's the point of worrying? I looked out the window. Vaughn was still standing there. His figure in the late afternoon sun looked somewhat pathetic. Sometimes you have to be harsh so you don't become a victim. Though I won't lie. My heart aches. I loved him for 5 years and planned to spend my life with him. But right now, I know one thing. If you realize you're driving down the wrong road, you have to make a U-turn. Doesn't matter how far you've driven. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Sterling. Demand letter sent via certified mail. PDF copy emailed to his work address. Furthermore, I ran a title search. Vaughn indeed owns 2 condos under his name prior to the wedding date. 1 mortgaged, 1 fully paid off. If we go to court, we can file a motion to place a lien on both. I replied, thank you. Let's proceed by the book. Putting my phone down, I looked at Greer. Come with me? Where? The Mag Mile? She stood up. To shake off this aura of failure and buy some new clothes. Time for a clean slate. Now that is the Sloan I know. Greer jumped up. Let's go, my treat. We're celebrating your liberation. We walked out of the building laughing, leaving Vaughn and his wilted bouquet far behind. The day after the demand letter was sent, Vaughn showed up at my office. Sloan, come out, we need to talk, he yelled loudly in the reception area, drawing the attention of my coworkers. I was prepping a presentation for a midday meeting. Hearing the commotion, I walked out to find Vaughn looking exhausted, his suit wrinkled. He looked radically different from the glowing groom at the altar. This is my workplace. Please leave, I said calmly. Leave? You sent a lawyer's letter directly to my corporate email. Now my entire firm knows my ex-fiancé is threatening to sue me. Are you happy? Vaughn's eyes were bloodshot. His voice was hoarse. You brought this on yourself. I remained unyielding. If you had just returned the money, there wouldn't have been a letter. Leave and let me work. Work? You ruined my life. Vaughn suddenly raised his voice. The partners called me in. They said my personal drama was becoming a liability to the firm's reputation. Do you have any idea how many years I grinded to get this promotion? And the only person to blame is yourself, I repeated, my tone even colder. When you decided to put on a show at the wedding and hand all your money to mommy, you should have foreseen the consequences. You only thought about yourself, your mother, and your image as the perfect son. Did you think about my feelings? Our future? But I admitted I was wrong, Vaughn deflated. A pleading tone entered his voice. Sloan, I really get it now. Let's stop fighting. I'll return the money, just don't do it so aggressively. Give me time. A week. I gave you a week. I glanced at my Apple Watch. It's day 2. You have 5 days left. $75,000. That's a huge amount of cash to liquidate. I need time to gather it. That is your problem. I turned to leave. Sloan! Vaughn grabbed my wrist so hard I winced. Are you really going to be this vicious? 5 years. We were together for 5 years. Do you have no feelings left at all? Let go. I stared at his hand, biting off every word. You'll have my answer today. Security! I shouted toward the lobby desk. Two security guards quickly approached and pulled Vaughn away. He struggled, and as they dragged him to the elevators, he yelled, "Sloan, you're going to regret this. I won't forgive you for this." A dead silence hung in the office. All my coworkers were staring at me with varying expressions. I took a deep breath, offered them a polite nod, and said, "I apologize for the disruption. This is a personal legal matter, and I will handle it. It won't affect my work." When I returned to my desk, my project lead Valerie walked over and patted my shoulder. "If you need help, let me know." "Thank you, Val. I've got it under control." "Good." She lowered her voice. "But be careful. Men like that are capable of extremes. I'll drive you home tonight." "No need, I have my car, but I'll be careful." Despite my words, I asked Greer to follow me home that evening. She tailed my car all the way to my building's garage. "I'm going to shadow you for a few days," Greer insisted. "Vaughn is desperate right now. Who knows what he'll pull." At home, Mom had cooked a massive dinner. Dad sat at the table with a serious face. "Sweetie, Vaughn came by the house today," he said immediately. My heart skipped a beat. "What did he do?" "He didn't come inside. He was pacing around our driveway for a long time," Dad said grimly. "I said a few words to him and he left, but he looked erratic. Be careful these next few days. Don't walk alone at night." "I know." I sat at the table, completely losing my appetite. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry." "Nonsense." Mom put food on my plate. "It's on us as parents for not seeing what kind of man he truly was. But better to see clearly late than never. If you can get the $75K back, great. If not, let it go. As long as we're safe and healthy." "No, I am absolutely getting it back." I set my fork down. "It's not about the cash. If I back down now, they'll think they can walk all over me. I have to show Vaughn that his actions have consequences." Dad looked at me with a complex expression. "You've changed, Sloan." "I just grew up," I replied. "I used to think compromising solved conflicts. Now I know that if you take one step back, people will step on you 10 times. At that moment, the doorbell rang. We exchanged glances. Who would come at this hour? Dad stood up, checked the peephole, and his face darkened. "It's Vaughn's mother." "Why is she here?" Mom grew nervous. "Open it," I said calmly. "Whatever happens, happens." The door opened. Lorraine stood on the threshold. Without her refined wedding makeup, she looked significantly older, but her eyes remained as sharp as a wolf protecting her cub. "Sloan, we need to talk." She cut straight to the point. "Come in," I stepped aside. Lorraine walked in, scanning our modest suburban living room with thinly veiled disdain. Our standard 3-bedroom house couldn't compare to her luxury Gold Coast high-rise. That was exactly why she had been against our wedding from the start, believing I wasn't good enough for her son. "Have a seat, Lorraine." I was polite but cold. "No need. I'll say my piece and leave." She stood with her back straight. "Vaughn grew up without a father. I raised him alone. I paid for his college, sent him to study abroad, and finally waited for the day he would start his own family. Yes, he lost his head at the wedding, but it was out of love for his mother." "Is loving your mother a crime?" "Loving your mother isn't a crime. Doing it in a way that financially and emotionally sabotages your future wife is," I answered smoothly. "What nonsense! My son wanted to give his assets to me. That is his right. By what right do you, an outsider, stick your nose into our family's business?" Lorraine's voice turned shrill. "Now you've sent a lawyer's letter to his office. Are you trying to destroy him? If he gets fired, will you take responsibility for that? If he loses his job, it's solely because he doesn't know how to handle his personal drama without it damaging his company's reputation. That has nothing to do with me." I remained unfazed. Lorraine shook with fury. "Fine. Sloan, I underestimated you. $75,000. Fine. I will give it to you. Consider it the price our family pays to finally see your true colors. Take the money and don't you ever dare come near my son again." With those words, she pulled a cashier's check out of her designer bag and threw it onto the coffee table. $75,000. Take it and get the hell out of our lives. I looked at the check and suddenly burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" she demanded fiercely. I'm laughing at the fact that you still don't get it. I picked up the check and looked at it. This isn't a handout. This is my legal money. And I think you've gotten things twisted. Your son is stalking me, not the other way around. You're lying! Whether I'm lying or not, you know perfectly well. I tossed the check back onto the table. Tell Vaughn to return this money to me himself. This is a legal matter between him and me. And as for the harassment, tell him if he shows up at my office or my home one more time, I'm calling CPD to file a restraining order. Lorraine turned white with anger. Pointing a finger at me, she hissed, "You will regret this. My son is an incredible catch. Any girl would jump at the chance. Who wants a 30-year-old leftover woman?" Those words pushed my parents over the edge. What did you just say? Dad stood up. His 6'2" frame cast an imposing shadow. Get out. You are not welcome in our home. Have some shame, Lorraine. Mom stepped forward, her voice freezing cold. My daughter is 30. She is young, beautiful, has a great career and wonderful character. Men will line up for her. But your son is 30 years old and still clinging to his mommy's skirt. What normal girl would ever put up with that? Your whole family is bullying me, Lorraine shrieked. It's perfectly clear who is bullying who. Leave. I walked to the door and pulled it wide open. If you don't leave right now, I will dial 911. She glared at me venomously, snatched her check back, and clacked out the door in her heels. Even after the door shut, I could hear her cursing down the driveway. What a nightmare. Mom was shaking with indignation. Mom, don't let it get to you. People like that aren't worth your nerves. I rubbed her back, though internally my blood was boiling. Back in my room, I texted Mr. Sterling. Vaughn's mother came to my house tonight, offered me a check for the $75K. I refused it and told her Vaughn needs to send it. Also, he caused a scene at my office today. I have witnesses and security camera footage. If he shows up again, I'm calling the police for a restraining order. His reply came quickly. Smart move. Do not take money directly from his mother. It creates legal ambiguities regarding who the debt belongs to. Secure that camera footage. A temporary restraining order, TRO, is highly feasible if there is one more documented incident of harassment. I set my phone down and stared at the darkening sky outside the window. Suddenly, a wave of sheer exhaustion washed over me. 5 years ended in such an ugly way. I didn't regret my choice, but I felt a profound sadness. Sadness for my wasted 20s. Sadness from realizing who the man I loved really was. My phone vibrated again. An SMS from an unknown number. Sloan, I'm so sorry. I really get it now. I will return the money. Just please, don't ruin my life. Let's just part amicably for the sake of the 5 years we shared. It was Vaughn. After a moment's thought, I typed, wire the funds by the end of the week. We have nothing else to discuss. Do not dare bring up our years together. You trampled everything we had the moment you publicly humiliated me at our wedding. Sent, blocked, done. From now on, a new chapter begins for Sloan. But I relaxed too soon. On the afternoon of the third day, Greer called me, and I realized the real battle had just begun. Sloan, disaster. Greer's voice sounded frantic. Vaughn's mother just posted a massive rant on Facebook. She's claiming you're a con artist, that you tried to extort money from them, and she attached photos of you. People are sharing it like crazy. It's all over my feed. My heart sank. Send me screenshots. Seconds later, my phone pinged with images. Lorraine, hiding behind the mask of a grief-stricken mother, had written a wall of text. With tears in her eyes, she accused me of playing with her son's feelings, chasing their wealth, throwing an unhinged tantrum at the altar, and now trying to extort $75,000. The post was highly emotional and manipulative. It included couple photos of Vaughn and me, and a picture of me holding the mic at the reception looking cold. The comments section already had hundreds of replies, mostly supporting Lorraine, calling me a gold digger, a narcissist, and a scammer. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Can people really be this shameless? Sloan, are you okay? Greer asked anxiously. I'm fine. I took a deep breath. Do me a favor. Screen record the entire post and every single comment. Then forward it to Mr. Sterling. Tell him I'll be suing Lorraine for defamation. Got it. Doing it right now. Hanging up, I sat at my laptop and began drafting my response. If they wanted to play dirty, I accepted the challenge. I wasn't going to take this lying down. I spent 2 hours laying out the factual timeline. From the beginning of our 5-year relationship, to the family's meeting, to how my parents gifted the $75,000 for the condo down payment. I described the shocking speech at the wedding, her unhinged visit to my home, his harassment at my office, the true face of the perfect son, and the cyberbullying and defamation. I wrote dryly and objectively. I attached all the receipts. PDF screenshots of the wire transfers from my parents' bank. Short video clips from the wedding taken by friends, clearly showing his speech. Security camera stills from my office lobby. And the full text of her defamatory post. The truth often doesn't sound as melodramatic as fiction, but it was the undeniable truth. At the end, I added, I am not looking for sympathy. I am demanding accountability. I reserve the right to pursue legal action for defamation against anyone spreading these malicious lies. Once finished, I didn't hit publish immediately. I sent the draft to my lawyer. Excellent write-up. The facts are clear. The evidence is irrefutable, Mr. Sterling replied quickly. But you must understand. Once you hit publish, there's no turning back. It's a scorched earth PR war. There was no turning back the second she posted her lies. I typed back. Understood. Publish it. I highly recommend making it a public Medium post and linking it to your social accounts for official visibility. I am drafting a cease and desist and a defamation suit against Lorraine as we speak. Thank you. I published the massive post with the receipts. Grier shared it first. I was the maid of honor at this wedding. I am a witness. Every word Sloan says is the absolute truth. Soon, my coworkers and other wedding guests chimed in. My parents, who weren't savvy with social media, asked relatives to help spread it. Within an hour, the post had gone viral in our local Chicago networks. The tone of the internet immediately flipped. Oh my God. So that's what happened. Plot twist of the century. Giving his mom all his assets and a $4K allowance? King of the mama's boys. Good for her for running. You can't marry a guy like that. Announcing that at the wedding is literally financial abuse and trapping the bride. Disgusting. Of course, there were skeptics. That's just her side of the story. Even so, canceling a wedding at the reception is brutal. Just talk it out at home. Why air dirty laundry? Learn to forgive. I ignored those people, only archiving the most aggressive and defamatory comments. As the lawyer said, the more evidence, the better. 2 hours later, Vaughn couldn't take it anymore. He reached out through mutual friends, begging for a meeting. Wire the funds and issue a public apology, or we settle this in civil court, I replied through the grapevine. Sloan, my mom is elderly. She doesn't understand the internet. Your post made her blood pressure spike. She can't handle this. Vaughn left a sobbing voicemail. When she was dragging my name through the mud for thousands of people to see, did she care if I could handle it? I texted back. Don't use her health as a shield. If she gets sick, use the $4,000 you give her to pay her medical bills. The apology and the money are non-negotiable. Are you trying to drive us into an early grave? You backed yourselves into this corner. I blocked the proxy number. But the fallout didn't end there. That evening, the HR director at my tech firm, Miss Thorne, called me. Sloan, please come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. We need to talk. May I ask what this is regarding? About how your personal matters are affecting the company's image. My heart dropped. This was what I had feared. The next morning, I walked into Miss Thorne's office. My manager, Valerie, was also there. Miss Thorne was a strict woman in her 40s. The company is aware of the viral situation online. While it is a personal matter, the fact that your coworkers are being dragged into the commentary casts a shadow over the firm's reputation. I am incredibly sorry, I said sincerely. But I did not instigate this conflict. I am merely defending my reputation and publishing factual evidence. I understand, the HR director nodded. But policy is policy. If an employee's external behavior negatively impacts the company, we have to evaluate the viability of their continued employment. My stomach plummeted. I had worked here for 6 years, climbing from an intern to a project manager. Only I knew how much blood, sweat, and tears I'd poured into this place. Valerie interjected. Sloan is the best manager on my team. Her professionalism is undeniable. She is the victim in this situation. If the company penalizes her, it will destroy team morale. Valerie, I understand your position, but company policy. Miss Thorne turned back to me. Let's do this. The company will place you on a 1-week paid administrative leave. Sort out your affairs. If the noise dies down in a week, you return to work. If the situation escalates, I understand. I stood up. I don't need a week. I resign, effective immediately. Sloan. Valerie was shocked. Valerie, thank you for everything. I smiled at her, then looked at the HR director. I will submit my formal resignation today, work out my standard notice period, and transition my projects. Miss Thorne clearly hadn't expected such decisiveness. Are you sure? I'm sure. But I have conditions. My separation paperwork must state clearly that there was no breach of corporate ethics. It is a voluntary resignation. Do we have a deal? When we walked out of the office, Valerie followed me, looking guilty. Sloan, I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you. It's not your fault, I answered honestly. You did everything you could. But a company that throws its employees under the bus this easily isn't worth staying for. I handled Vaughn. I can handle finding a new job. If I need a reference, I'll definitely come to you. Returning to my desk, I began drafting my resignation letter. To say I wasn't sad would be a lie. But mostly, I felt relief. I had been here 6 years and had hit a ceiling anyway. Maybe it was time for a change. My phone rang. It was Greer. Sloan, did you see the PR statement from Vaughn's firm? I opened the LinkedIn link she sent and froze. His corporate consulting firm had released an official statement regarding the situation with their employee, V. Sokolov. The personal conduct of Mr. Sokolov is his own and does not reflect the values of our firm. However, given that this incident has caused significant distraction and reputational damage, leadership has decided to place Mr. Sokolov on indefinite administrative leave pending a full internal review. We hold our employees to the highest ethical standards. The comment section was ruthless. Good move. Men who financially abuse their partners don't belong in consulting. Glad to see corporate accountability. He nuked his own career to please his mommy. I put the phone down. I had mixed feelings. Vaughn had ground away for 8 years to get to his level. Now he was suspended, likely soon to be fired. Was I happy? No. I didn't want this. But he brought it upon himself. Exactly 10 minutes later, Vaughn called again. This time, his voice was hollow with despair. Are you happy? I got suspended. Are you happy now? These are the consequences of your own choices, I replied calmly. Vaughn, I'm saying this for the last time. Return the money. I want public apologies from both you and your mother, posted everywhere the original lies were shared. You will admit to defamation and promise never to contact my family again. The moment the $75,000 clears in my account, I will take my post down, and we will never cross paths again. Long silence on the line, followed by muffled sobbing. Sloan, I really understand now. Can you give me another chance? Let's start over. No, I cut him off. We were done the moment you picked up that microphone at our wedding. Now do what you have to do. Take responsibility like an adult. Stop crying and playing the victim. I hung up and exhaled. My phone buzzed. A notification from Chase Bank. Incoming wire transfer. $75,000. The money had arrived. Moments later, Vaughn's Facebook page updated. He posted a photo of a handwritten letter. I, Vaughn, offer my deepest apologies to Sloan and her family for the pain and disruption I caused. My actions at the wedding were impulsive and reckless. I completely disregarded Sloan's feelings. I also deeply regret failing to stop my mother from spreading false information online. I recognize my fault and promise never to bother Sloan or her loved ones again. I ask everyone to stop spreading these lies. I am truly sorry. Below it was a screenshot of an apology from his mother, Lorraine. Public opinion shifted instantly. Should have done this from the start. At least he finally admitted it. Still, stay far away from Mama's boys. Good for the girl. She held her ground. True to my word, I deleted my viral exposé, leaving only a short update. The dispute has been resolved. The funds have been returned. Thank you all for your support. This chapter is closed, and comments are turned off. Then I called my lawyer. Mr. Sterling, the money cleared. The apologies are posted. Are we still filing the defamation suit? Since they publicly retracted and apologized, we can pause the filing, Sterling replied. But we retain the right to sue. If they utter your name in public again, we will hit them with the full force of the law. Thank you so much. Don't mention it. I heard you resigned. Take some time. Think about your next steps. If you need a job, I have connections at a few top-tier firms in the city. Thank you. I'm going to take a breather first. Hanging up, I looked at the sun-drenched street outside. A month later, I officially left my job. My coworkers threw a small farewell happy hour. Valerie hugged me tightly. Call me if you need anything, promise. Walking out of the office building, I took a deep breath. A real fresh start was ahead of me. But fate, it seems, loves a cruel joke. Just as I thought the dust had settled, new gossip knocked the wind out of me. Sloan, did you hear? Grier called. Her voice was conspiratorial. Vaughn's mom is in the hospital. Hospital? What happened? They say her blood pressure spiked from a panic attack. Pretty serious. Grier paused. But there's crazier news. What? Vaughn is getting married. I froze. To who? When? Next month. To a girl he's known for barely 4 weeks. Grier lowered her voice. And rumor has it, she's already pregnant. Pregnant. Getting married in a month. I repeated her words, wondering if I had misheard. Absolutely true. I heard it from Vaughn's old coworkers. He's already sending out evites. The wedding is on the 8th. The bride's name is… Hold on. Looking at the screenshot. Delaney. A completely unfamiliar name. And she's 3 months along, Grier continued. No wonder his mom was rushing your wedding so hard. It makes sense now. I stood on the bustling Chicago sidewalk, gripping my phone, feeling like the world was absolutely absurd. Just a month ago, I was standing at the altar with this man, and a month later, he's marrying someone else who is miraculously pregnant. Sloan, are you okay? Grier asked, worried. Perfectly fine, I replied, surprising myself with my own calm. It's just hilariously absurd. He swore his undying love to me, begged for forgiveness, and yet he managed to knock someone up and get engaged this fast? The ultimate mama's boy. Can't take a step without mommy. Looks like she found him a girl who will actually obey her. Right? Though this Delaney chick is a piece of work too. She knew he was engaged and still jumped in his bed. Probably after his money. Maybe. I suddenly felt a wave of apathy. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with me. He can marry whoever he wants. As long as he stays away from me. You really don't care? What is there to regret? I chuckled. I should be celebrating that I escaped in time. If we had gotten married, I'd be in that pregnant girl's shoes right now, only to find out my husband gave our life savings to his mom and pays her a massive allowance. Now that would be a real tragedy. Grier laughed loudly into the phone. Ain't that the truth? Whoever wants that dumpster fire can have it. How's the job hunt? I've got a couple of interviews lined up. I checked my watch. Actually, I have to run to one now. I'm going to be late. Good luck. If you get it, dinner's on me. Hanging up, I walked down into the CTA station. The fleeting shock had already vanished. Vaughn is getting married. His fiancée is pregnant. What do I care? We're even. Or so I thought. 3 days later, Vaughn called me again. Seeing the familiar number, he wasn't blocked on my new phone yet. I frowned, but answered. Sloan, it's me. Vaughn's voice sounded wrecked. What do you want? I'm getting married. He fell silent, as if waiting for my reaction. I heard. Congratulations. My voice was perfectly flat. And you have nothing to say to me? What am I supposed to say? Have a nice life. I went to hang up. Wait, he shouted hastily. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I regret it. Sloan, I regret everything so much. I never should have listened to her at the wedding. Listen to who? Your mother? Vaughn's voice dropped. You know, Delaney, my mom introduced us. They've known each other for a long time. Even before our wedding, my mom was secretly setting up accidental meetups between us. I didn't think anything of it. I thought I was just being polite. And then what? Then I got drunk. We slept together one time, and she got pregnant. Tears laced his voice. My mom threatened to kill herself. She screamed that a child carrying our bloodline wouldn't grow up without a father. She forced me to marry her. I didn't have a choice. Sloan, I swear I didn't have a choice. I held the phone, barely suppressing a laugh. This was a literal soap opera. And, I asked, why are you calling me? Do you want me to pity you? Forgive you? Or maybe wait for you to get divorced so we can get back together? No, he muttered incoherently. I just wanted to say I still love you. I didn't want to marry her. My mom forced me. Vaughn, I interrupted him. You are 30 years old. No one can force you to get married if you don't want to. Since you decided to obey mommy and marry a woman you don't love, then be a man and take responsibility for it. Between us, it is completely over. Do not ever call me again. Sloanie. And one more thing, I added. Since you're getting married, throw away any of my stuff left at your place. Or ship it. You have my parents' address. My mom already threw it all out. Excellent. Goodbye forever. I hung up and permanently blocked his number. Letting out a deep breath, I tossed the phone into my purse. The irony. A month ago at the wedding, he publicly gave everything to his mother, treating me like garbage. And now he's trapped in a shotgun wedding engineered by his mommy. The quintessential mama's boy. I shook my head, evicting the trash from my brain. Today I had 2 important interviews. The first was at a fast-growing tech startup. The pay was good, but the hours were notoriously brutal. The young hiring manager, after asking the standard questions, suddenly said, I read about your viral situation online. You handled it very methodically. I was a bit taken aback. You saw that? Of course, the whole city was talking about it. He smiled. Don't get me wrong, I'm not gossiping. I just admired your approach. Calm, decisive, no unnecessary drama. We need people like that on our team. Thank you. But may I ask if this situation affects your assessment of me as a candidate regarding my emotional state? Not at all. You said it yourself. Work is work, and personal is personal. You know how to compartmentalize. He nodded. I'll have an answer for you within 3 days. The second interview was at a major Fortune 500 company in the Loop for an associate director of marketing role. The interviewer was a strict, perceptive woman in her 50s. Sloan, I've reviewed your resume. Highly impressive, she started right in. And I am aware of your internet scandal. I see. I'm just curious if a complex conflict arises with a colleague at work. How would you handle it? I thought for a second. First, I address the problem based purely on facts, without making it personal. Second, I clearly establish professional boundaries that cannot be crossed. Third, I attempt to find a mutually beneficial solution, but not at the expense of my own integrity or the project's success. To be specific, if a colleague tries to take credit for my work, I will speak with them privately first. If that fails, I'll escalate it to management with documentation. I will not, however, cause a public scene in the office. Professionalism is paramount. She nodded in satisfaction. You're hired. Can you start on Monday? Yes, I answered without hesitation. Excellent. The base salary will be 30% higher than your last role. Welcome to the team. Walking out of the skyscraper, I smiled. A new job. A new life. Everything was falling into place. Until 3 days later when I received a package. The return address was Vaughn's condo. No sender name. I sliced open the padded envelope. Inside was a USB flash drive and a handwritten note in a messy scrawl. Sloan, there are things you need to know. A week before the wedding, my mom met with Delaney. I accidentally found this recording. Listen to it yourself. I am sorry for everything. Vaughn. Frowning, I plugged the USB into my laptop. There was a single 5-minute audio file. At first, there was static, then Lorraine's voice came through. Delaney, I'll be blunt. My Vaughn has lost his mind over this Sloan girl. He wants to marry her, but I can see she's just waiting to get her hands on our money. Then came the voice of a younger woman, presumably Delaney. But Lorraine, Vaughn really loves her. Love doesn't put food on the table, the mother-in-law snapped. I want you to be his wife. You're traditional, obedient, from a good family. You two make a perfect match. If you agree, I'll arrange everything. But no buts. Lorraine's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. Their wedding is next Saturday. I have it all planned out. I'll convince Vaughn to announce right at the altar that he's putting his real estate and portfolio into a trust for me. Sloane won't tolerate that. She'll cause a scene. The wedding will blow up, and then you'll have your chance. Really? Of course. Have I ever lied to you? And then, you take the initiative. Get pregnant. Where will he go? He'll have to marry you. But what about the assets? Once you two are married, I'll slowly transfer the assets back to his name, and everyone will be happy. Silence hung on the recording. Then Delaney answered, Okay, Lorraine, I'll do as you say. The recording clicked off. I sat in front of the monitor, a chill running down my spine. So, that was it. The entire circus at the wedding was meticulously orchestrated by Lorraine. She never wanted to let me into the family. That whole charade about being the perfect son was just bait to force me into throwing a tantrum and ruining the wedding. And Vaughn, the man who swore he loved me for 5 years, was just a pawn in his mother's sick game. Maybe he knew about the plan, maybe he didn't, but he played along anyway. I felt disgusted. Not hurt. Just purely nauseated. Like I had swallowed a fly. My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. It was Vaughn. Did you listen to the recording? His voice was raspy. I listened. I didn't lie to you. I only found out about all this after the wedding. They conspired a long time ago. And that night, I was so drunk. Maybe that wasn't an accident either. Vaughn was barely holding back tears. Sloane, they set me up. My own mother set me up. I feel like I'm losing my mind. And, I asked coldly, are you waiting for me to pity you? To forgive you? Sloane, I do not pity you, and I do not forgive you. I cut him off. Because you are 30 years old. You are a grown man. Your mother's manipulations, your new fiancé's scheming, those are external factors. But the final decision to take that microphone was yours. You chose the path of blind obedience. You chose to betray me because it was easier. So don't whine to me about how miserable you are. You earned this. A heavy silence fell over the line. Just jagged breathing. I am keeping this recording, I continued. If you, your mother, or your future wife ever try to come near me again, this audio will surface exactly where it will cause the most damage. Do you understand me? I understand. Good. Goodbye. I pulled the flash drive out and locked it in my safe. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the Chicago skyline in brilliant orange. The old story was over. A new one was beginning, but I didn't expect it to start so soon. A week later, while having lunch with my new coworkers, I received a text from an unknown number. Sloane, hello. This is Delaney, Vaughn's fiancée. Can we meet? There are things you need to know. Her message caught me off guard. We had never met and seemingly had no reason to. But curiosity won. I wanted to look into the eyes of a woman who could so easily climb into another woman's bed, get pregnant on command, and cater to a psychopathic mother-in-law. We met at a quiet artisanal coffee shop in the West Loop. When I arrived, she was already sitting by the window with an iced matcha latte. She looked about 25 or 26. Pretty, wearing a loose maternity dress. Her belly was already slightly rounded. Seeing me, she smiled nervously. Hi, Sloane. Hello. I nodded and sat across from her. Delaney spoke first. Thank you for coming. I know this is weird, but you need to know the truth about Vaughn. Or about his mother? I corrected, a bitter edge to my voice. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. You've probably heard Vaughn and I are getting married. Delaney lowered her eyes, nervously picking at her cuticles. Yes, I admit. I liked him. I agreed to his mom's plan, but I didn't think it would go this far. What exactly? My pregnancy. It's fake. I froze. Fake? I repeated, not believing my ears. Fake. Delaney smiled bitterly. Lorraine coached me. She said if I faked a pregnancy, Vaughn would definitely marry me. That scandal at your wedding was her doing too. She just wanted to get rid of you. Even though I knew part of the truth from the audio recording, hearing the confession in person was chilling. This woman was willing to sink to any depth just to control her son. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm terrified. Delaney's voice trembled. After your wedding was canceled, Vaughn changed completely. He started drinking heavily, got placed on leave, and might get fired. And Lorraine didn't stop. She forced him to sign his second condo over to her, saying she didn't want him getting tricked by women again. And he agreed. He agreed? Delaney nodded. Now he literally has nothing. No property, no savings. It's all in his mother's trust. And he has no job. He just drinks all day. And she rubbed her stomach. My lie is going to be exposed soon. What do I do then? Tell the truth. I can't. Tears welled up in Delaney's eyes. Lorraine threatened me. She said if I spill the secret, she'll make sure I can never show my face in this city again. She said once we're officially married, she'll orchestrate a real pregnancy for me. Orchestrate? I frowned. Yes. Her voice broke into a whisper. She said she'd slip Vaughn some pills, or find a sperm donor. The main thing is that the child carries the family name. I swallowed hard. This was beyond the realm of normal human comprehension. Lorraine's manipulation bordered on clinical psychopathy. So what do you want from me? I don't know. Delaney shook her head, shedding tears. I just thought you deserved to know everything, and I want to warn you. Watch out for Lorraine. She despises you. She thinks you ruined her son's life. I accidentally overheard her on the phone telling someone that you have to pay for this. Pay for this? I scoffed. And what exactly does she plan to do? I don't know for sure, but I think she wants to show up at your new job and cause a massive scene, or something worse. Delaney grabbed my hand. Sloane, please. Be careful. She's capable of anything. Looking at this girl, I suddenly felt a wave of pity for her. She thought she had found a shortcut to a rich husband, not realizing she had opened the gates of hell. Why are you doing this? Aren't you afraid of her revenge? I am. But I'm more afraid of becoming a permanent part of this family. Delaney wiped her tears. I get it now. Vaughn is a giant infant who listens to whatever mommy says. And Lorraine is an absolute control freak. If I marry him, my life is over. So what have you decided? I'm leaving, Delaney said firmly. I'm moving to Austin, Texas to start over. But before I left, I had to tell you the truth. I'm sorry, Sloane. For everything I did. She pulled a thick envelope from her purse and pushed it across the table toward me. This is the hush money Lorraine gave me as a pre-wedding gift. $20,000 in cash. I haven't touched it. Take it as compensation for what you've been through. I looked at the envelope and didn't touch it. Keep it. You'll need money to relocate and start a new life, I said. I accept your apology, but it's time you learn to take responsibility for your own actions instead of living by someone else's script. Delaney froze, and tears streamed down her cheeks again. Thank you, Sloane. You're a truly good person. Vaughn didn't deserve you. I know, I smiled. And you deserve a better life, too. Leave while you still can. When Delaney left, I remained in the coffee shop, slowly finishing my iced latte. The fact that Lorraine wanted revenge didn't surprise me. Narcissists never admit their own faults. They always blame others. But I wasn't easily intimidated either. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The next day, I relayed everything to Mr. Sterling and sent him a copy of the audio file. This is a crucial piece of evidence, he said. If she actually makes a move, we use this to counterattack. Keep a log of any strange calls and stay vigilant. For the next few days, I was on high alert, but everything was quiet. Things were going perfectly at my new job. The team was great. No one knew anything about my past internet drama until Friday afternoon when Valerie, my old manager, called me. Sloane, we have a code red. Valerie's voice was shaking. Your ex's mother just showed up at our office building with a whole mob. She's demanding to see you. Security locked the lobby doors, so they unrolled massive picket signs right on the plaza. There's a huge crowd of onlookers. My heart skipped a beat, but I resigned. Why did they go there? She's screaming into a bullhorn that you're a con artist, that you bled her son dry and got him fired. Now she's threatening to jump off the parking garage. Valerie spoke in a hushed tone, and she brought guys with cameras. They look like TikTokers or indie journalists. They're trying to publicly cancel you. I let out a nervous laugh. Independent journalists. Wow, she went big. Sloan, maybe you should lay low? They look seriously unhinged. No. If they came for me, I'm stepping out, I said calmly. This needs to be ended once and for all. Hiding is pointless. Just do me a favor, record everything happening out there on your phone and send it to me. I'm on my way. You're coming here? It's dangerous. I took PTO from work, flagged down an Uber, and headed to my old office in the Loop. On the way, I called Mr. Sterling. I'm heading over, I said. Remember, do not engage physically, the lawyer warned. Record everything. The moment they cross into harassment or block your path, call Chicago PD. Understood. Pulling up to the corporate plaza, I saw the mob from a block away. Several older women were holding up a massive vinyl banner. Sloan, marriage scammer, give my son his life back. Lorraine stood in the center with a megaphone, tears streaming down her face, broadcasting to the street. There she is! This predator destroyed my son's life. She played with his feelings, extorted $75,000 from us, and staged a massive scene at the altar. My son lost his prestigious job because of her. Shouldn't women like this face justice? Pedestrians were stopping. Many had their phones out recording. A few guys with professional gimbal rigs were circling Lorraine. I took a deep breath and walked right up to the crowd. Lorraine, were you looking for me? The crowd instantly parted. All eyes locked onto me. Lorraine clearly hadn't expected me to actually show up, but she quickly recovered and shrieked into the megaphone. There she is! This gold digger ruined my Vaughn's life. And she still has the nerve to show her face. And why shouldn't I show my face? I asked smoothly. You claim I extorted your money. That $75,000 down payment came straight from my parents' bank account, and I have the wire receipts to prove it. You say I threw a tantrum at the wedding. Have you conveniently forgotten why I threw it? You're a liar. She turned bright red. Don't listen to her. She was only ever after our money. After your money? I laughed out loud. Lorraine, what exactly do you have? You have 2 condos strictly in your name. You have the cash in your accounts. Your son surrendered half his paycheck to you. If I were a gold digger, I would have found someone a hell of a lot wealthier than your son. Chuckles rippled through the crowd of onlookers. You're defaming me. Is it defamation, or is it the truth? I think everyone here is smart enough to figure it out. I turned to the guys with the cameras. Which publications are you with? Can I see your press credentials? They exchanged awkward glances, unable to produce any ID. No press badges. I raised an eyebrow. So, you're content creators? Drop your handles. I'd love to subscribe and see how you spin this. One of them muttered, We're independent journalists. Independent journalists still have to verify facts. You've listened to one side of the story and you're already filming a hit piece. That opens you up to civil liability. I am calling the police. I will sue you for defamation and harassment. The cameramen panicked and started packing up their gear. Wait, Lorraine blocked their path. Don't leave, she's just bluffing. Am I? Let's find out. I pulled out my phone. I already dialed 911. CPD is a block away. Lorraine, your actions constitute disturbing the peace, harassment, and trespassing on corporate property. They can lock you up for that. Hearing the threat of jail time, the relatives holding the banner turned pale and began inching backward. You're bluffing. She didn't call the cops, the mother-in-law muttered. We'll find out shortly. I lowered my phone. But while we wait for the squad cars, I have something I want everyone here to listen to. I pulled up the audio file on my phone and held it up to the microphone of a nearby bystander. It was that exact fragment. I'll convince Vaughn to announce right at the altar that he's putting his real estate and portfolio into a trust for me. Sloan won't tolerate that. She'll cause a scene. The wedding will blow up. And then, you take the initiative. Get pregnant. Where will he go? He'll have to marry you. Lorraine's voice rang out crystal clear over the plaza. The crowd gasped. Oh my God. She set the whole thing up herself. What a psycho mother-in-law. Literally evil. No wonder the bride ran for the hills. Lorraine turned whiter than a sheet of paper. With a trembling finger, she pointed at me. You faked that audio. That's a felony. AI voice cloning. A forensic audio expert will determine if it's fake or not, I answered calmly. And by the way, Delaney can confirm that she is not actually pregnant and that this entire circus was your brilliant strategy. You're lying. Delaney is my daughter-in-law. She would never… She's right here. I pointed toward the edge of the crowd. Everyone turned. Standing at the periphery of the plaza was Delaney, pale, wearing her maternity dress. Delaney, tell everyone the truth. Are you really pregnant? Or is this Lorraine's master plan? Delaney bit her lip, looked at me, then at the ashen-faced mother-in-law, and finally spoke up. I am not pregnant. Lorraine forced me to fake it so Vaughn would be trapped into marrying me. And the scene at the wedding? She planned all of it just to get rid of Sloane. The crowd erupted into an absolute uproar. At that exact moment, the wail of police sirens echoed down the block. Lorraine's knees buckled, and she collapsed right onto the concrete plaza. The theatrical performance was over, but I knew the final curtain hadn't dropped yet. The Chicago police officers detained Lorraine and her accomplices. Delaney and I were asked to follow them to the precinct to give formal statements. At the station, Lorraine initially tried to deny everything, screaming that I had fabricated the whole thing. But when the detective informed her that the audio would be sent to the cybercrimes unit, and Delaney gave a sworn statement, she broke. Officer, I lost my mind, she began sobbing hysterically. I just love my son so much. I was terrified an evil woman was going to steal him. I'll apologize. I'll pay a fine. This isn't just a mistake, ma'am. This is disturbing the peace, criminal harassment, and trespassing, the young officer said strictly. You caused a major public disruption in a business district. I'll apologize. I'll pay for everything. She lunged toward me, trying to grab my hands. Sloane, forgive a stupid old woman. I don't know the law. Have mercy on me. I will never come near you again. I yanked my hands away and fixed her with an icy stare. You know the law perfectly well when it benefits you. You know exactly how to manipulate the system, but this time, you flew too close to the sun. Sloane. Delaney spoke up timidly. Maybe we can just drop it? She is elderly. Age is not a get-out-of-jail-free card for criminal behavior. I cut her off. If I let her off the hook today, she'll think she is invincible. Officer, I intend to press full charges. Ultimately, Lorraine was held overnight, charged with disorderly conduct, and issued a massive fine. The relatives were released with strict warnings. When we finally walked out of the precinct, it was late. Delaney walked behind me, hesitant to speak. Do you need something else? I asked. Thank you for not pressing charges against me for my part in this, she said quietly. You're a victim in your own way. Even though what you did was shady, the root of the evil here is Lorraine. I hope you learn from this and never let anyone manipulate your life like this again. I promise. Delaney nodded. I'm flying out to Austin tomorrow morning. Here. She held out a cashier's check. It's $5,000. It's my own personal savings. It's not much, but it's to compensate you for the hell at your old office. Keep it. I pushed her hand back. You need that money for your move. I already found a new job and the pay is much better. Delaney's eyes turned red again. Sloane, you are incredible. Just live a beautiful life. Safe travels to you. Left alone on the sidewalk, I took a deep breath of the cool evening air. My mom called. Sweetie, how are you? Greer said your ex's mother pulled another stunt. Mom, it's fine. They locked her up for the night. Exactly where she belongs. Mom exhaled. Just keep your guard up. When she gets out, she might try to retaliate. Don't worry, Mom. I have it completely under control. I'll be over for dinner soon. I hailed a cab. As the neon lights of the Chicago skyline flashed by the window, I knew the dirtiest chapter of my life had finally been closed. But life is full of surprises. Saturday morning, my lawyer woke me up with a call. Sloane. Bad news. Lorraine was released on a medical ROR. What? I thought she was being held for arraignment? She faked a severe hypertensive crisis in holding. The precinct didn't want the liability of a stroke on their hands, so they released her to a hospital. I just checked the ER, cleared her. She's back home. Be incredibly careful. She blames you for everything. I suggest crashing at your parents' or a friend's place for the weekend. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I panicked slightly. Who knew what this unhinged woman was capable of? I called Greer and asked if I could crash at her apartment in Wicker Park for a couple of days. No questions asked. My home is your fortress, Greer declared. Let her try to show up here. I packed a weekend bag, grabbed the flash drive with the recordings, and took an Uber to Greer's. She cooked dinner, and we chatted about her fiancé, Kellen, and their upcoming wedding. I started to relax. But the peace only lasted until 10 p.m. Someone started aggressively pounding on the apartment door. Greer and I exchanged panicked looks. Greer tiptoed to the peephole and went pale. It's Vaughn. And his mother. I looked through the peephole too. Vaughn was physically supporting a pale, heavily breathing Lorraine. Sloan, open the door. I know you're in there. Vaughn banged on the wood. My mom is sick. She wants to say goodbye to you. Say goodbye? Greer snorted. Give her a damn Oscar. If we don't open it, they won't leave. I sighed. Call 911 and ask for police and EMS. I'll stall them. I unlocked the deadbolt but kept the chain lock engaged, cracking the door open an inch. What do you want? Sloan, my mom is dying. Vaughn was crying. She wants to apologize. Sloan. The mother-in-law wheezed weakly. Forgive a stupid old woman. Let me in. I just want to say 2 words and I'll go. Say them from the hallway. I remained a fortress. How can you be so heartless? Lorraine suddenly found her voice. Her weakness evaporated instantly. I am dying out here, and you won't even let me inside your apartment? For a dying woman, you've got a great set of lungs, I noted coldly. Leave. I already called the cops. Oh, so call them, she shrieked. Let the whole building see what you've driven me to. I have nothing to do with you. Vaughn and I are over. And we all know exactly who drove who to this point. Suddenly, Lorraine's eyes rolled back into her head, and she collapsed onto the hallway carpet. Mom! Vaughn dropped to his knees. Sloan, open the door. She fainted. I frowned. Greer whispered over my shoulder. She actually looks like she passed out. She's turning blue. It was a liability risk to keep the door shut if she was actually coding. I unlatched the chain. Vaughn dragged his mother into the entryway. Greer grabbed a glass of water. I stayed on the line with the 911 dispatcher. While waiting for the paramedics, Lorraine fluttered her eyes open and started weeping. Forgive me, Sloan. I just love my Vaughn so much. Mom, please stop. Vaughn rubbed her hand and looked up at me. Sloan, can't you find an ounce of grace in your heart? Grace? I scoffed. Your mother stages public circuses, fakes medical emergencies, stalks me in the middle of the night, and I'm supposed to be graceful? Do you think the universe revolves around your family's dysfunction? You have crossed every conceivable boundary. Sirens wailed in the distance. The CPD and Chicago fire paramedics arrived simultaneously. What's the situation here? An officer asked. They forced their way into the apartment and are harassing me. I pointed at the uninvited guests. We didn't force our way in. My mom was having a heart attack. We were asking for medical help, Vaughn pleaded defensively. The EMTs loaded Lorraine onto a stretcher. The officer instructed Vaughn to ride in the ambulance with his mother, and then report to the precinct immediately after. Vaughn shot me one last look, a look full of resentment, but also a bottomless, crushing exhaustion. I turned away. Once everyone was gone, Greer locked the deadbolt and exhaled. What an absolute madhouse. Was she actually having a heart attack? Or was she faking it? The ER doctors will figure it out, I replied. But I have had enough. I am moving, changing jobs, changing my apartment, and getting a new phone number. I am completely erasing myself from their radar. I support whatever you need to do. Greer hugged me. By the way, did you know Vaughn's wedding is officially canceled? Canceled? Delaney left the state. Vaughn found out the pregnancy was a sham. He realized his mother played him again, and they had a massive blowout fight. Now he's just drinking himself into oblivion. No job, no fiancé. That is the reality he chose, and these are his consequences, I said dryly. A week later, I broke my lease and moved to a new apartment in Lincoln Park. I changed my cell number. Only my inner circle knew how to reach me. My new one-bedroom was filled with natural light. My new role at the international marketing agency was challenging and exciting. I deleted every single photo of Vaughn, donated my wedding dress to a charity thrift store, and threw the receipt for the Omega watch into the dumpster. 6 months passed. I was crushing it at my new job and had already been fast-tracked for a promotion to VP of marketing. My life was peaceful and cozy. One afternoon, I walked down to the Starbucks below my office building. Sloan. I turned around. Standing in front of me was Vaughn. He had lost a shocking amount of weight and had a scruffy, unkempt beard. Dark bags hung under his eyes. He was holding a battered leather briefcase. "Is it really you?" He forced a pathetic smile. "Long time no see." "Long time." I immediately put my guard up. "How have you been?" "Great." "Well, if that's all, I have to get back to work." "Wait." He stepped in my path. Just 2 words. I glanced around. The Starbucks was packed with corporate workers. I was safe. "I'm listening. First, I'm sorry. For my mom, for myself, for everything. Second, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have never realized how suffocating and terrifying my mother's control actually was. Third, I genuinely wish you happiness. You deserve the best." Having said his piece, he turned and walked out the door without looking back. I watched him disappear into the downtown crowd. The very last trace of bitterness I held in my heart finally dissolved. "Your iced Americano, miss." The barista's voice pulled me back to reality. "Thanks." I took the cup and stepped out onto the sidewalk. The sun was shining brightly. Life goes on. "Sloan, are you free this weekend?" Greer called me. "Kellen's parents want to take you out to dinner." "Me? Why?" They said if you hadn't set such a hardcore standard for boundaries, I wouldn't have been so picky with my dating life, and Kellen and I would never have met. Basically, they want to say thank you. "Oh, all right, send me the address." On Saturday, I arrived at a high-end steakhouse in the Gold Coast. Kellen, his parents, and Greer were already seated. Kellen's family was incredibly warm and grounded. Greer was practically glowing with happiness. After dinner, Kellen went to get the car from valet. Greer and his parents stepped outside to wait, while I lingered for a moment by the mirrors in the lobby. "Sloan?" I heard a familiar voice. I turned and froze. Callahan. Callahan Sterling, my college senior and my first real love. He looked almost exactly the same, just more mature, with a sharper jawline. "I'm in town on a business trip, having dinner with some clients," he smiled, walking over. "Did not expect to run into you." "You haven't changed at all. Still just as gorgeous." "Thanks, Cal." I felt myself blush slightly. "I feel like I've aged a decade." "You just look more sophisticated." "I checked your LinkedIn a while back." "VP of Marketing?" "Crushing it." "I always knew you were going to be a star." "You were checking my LinkedIn?" "Our industry circles are small. Word gets around." Callahan paused. "Are you married?" "No." "Called off an engagement." "I'm single." "I just finalized my divorce recently," he said casually. "My ex-wife moved back to Europe with her family." We paused, looking at each other, and then both burst out laughing. It sounded exactly like the awkward banter of a blind date. "Let me get your number? Let's stay in touch. Old friends should catch up." "Of course." We exchanged contacts. Kellen pulled the car around, and I waved goodbye to Callahan. In the back seat, Greer was wiggling her eyebrows at me. "Who was the smoke show? Did you guys have a moment?" I saw sparks from the sidewalk. "Stop it. He's just an old friend from college." But I couldn't deny it. Running into Callahan had stirred up old feelings. In college, we had broken up completely amicably simply because we moved to different states after graduation. That night, Callahan texted, "Get home safe?" "Yes, thank you." "Free this weekend?" "Let's grab lunch." "I don't know anyone in Chicago." Getting bored eating alone. I hesitated. After the psychological warfare with Vaughn, I was terrified of starting a new relationship. But he immediately followed up with, "Don't overthink it. Just 2 old friends catching up." "Okay, see you Saturday." We went to a quaint French bistro. Callahan was incredibly attentive. "You've really changed," he noted. "In college, you were so quiet and agreeable. Now, you practically radiate authority." "Life forced me to toughen up," I smiled. He knew the story of my canceled wedding through mutual friends. "That was incredibly brave of you," he said, raising his wine glass. "A toast to the fearless Sloan." We talked for hours that night. It turned out our worldviews aligned perfectly. "You know, after graduation, my biggest regret was letting us drift apart," he suddenly confessed. "Cal, the past is the past. And what about the present? Do we have a second chance?" I fell silent. I was terrified of getting burned again. Don't answer right now. We can start as friends. My firm is keeping me in Chicago for 3 months on a project. We have time. And so we started dating. We went for walks along Lake Michigan, caught indie movies at the Music Box, and grabbed late-night diner food. Callahan was the polar opposite of Vaughn. He never tried to control me, never made me feel small. One evening, I was stuck at the office working on a launch until 11 p.m. When I finally walked out of the lobby, a torrential downpour was flooding the streets. I didn't have an umbrella. Suddenly, a large black umbrella opened above my head. Cal? What are you doing here? Was driving by, saw your office light was still on, figured I'd wait. Come on. I'll drive you home. When we got to his car, his shoulder was completely soaked because he had been holding the umbrella entirely over me. In that exact moment, the ice around my heart melted. No one had ever taken care of me so quietly, so genuinely. When we got up to my apartment so he could dry off, he looked at a framed photo from our college days sitting on my bookshelf. Sloan, I am not Vaughn. I will never let anyone disrespect you. Give me a chance. And if we get married, are you going to put all your assets in a trust for your mother? I asked quietly, half joking. He laughed out loud. No. Our money is our money. My mom is fully funded with her 401k and my dad's pension. Respecting your parents is important, but blind enmeshment is just stupidity. I looked into his eyes and nodded. Okay, Callahan wrapped his arms around me tightly. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon and eggs. Callahan was at the stove. I ran downstairs and got those almond croissants you like. Thank you. And by the way, I officially submitted my transfer request to the Chicago office permanently. I'm not letting you go again. A year later, I was standing in a beautiful venue overlooking the Chicago skyline. But this time, it was my real wedding. I walked down the aisle to where Callahan was waiting for me. No performative speeches, no ridiculous ambushes, just sincere vows. Sloan, thank you for trusting me again, Callahan said into the microphone. I promise to always respect you, to be your partner, your shield, in the good times and the bad. Callahan, thank you for making me believe in love again, I replied. The guests cheered. Greer was crying happy tears. My parents beamed with pride. That evening, as we were seeing the last guests off into their Ubers, we noticed a figure standing in the shadows near the venue entrance. It was Vaughn. He looked older, worn down by life. He was holding a small velvet box. Sloan. Congratulations. He held out the box. I didn't take it. Callahan stepped smoothly between us. Thank you. But we don't need any gifts. Vaughn lowered his hand. I just wanted to wish you happiness. You look beautiful. My life is wonderful, I replied. I wish you well. Vaughn turned around and slowly walked away into the dark city streets. Should we see what it is? Callahan asked, pointing to the box Vaughn had left sitting on a concrete planter. No, throw it away. I've completely let the past go. Callahan walked over to a trash can, but popped the box open first. Inside was a pair of pearl earrings and a note. I'm sorry. Be happy. These are the earrings my mom always wanted to give her daughter-in-law. I don't want them anywhere near me. Callahan tossed the entire box into the trash. He won't be coming around anymore. I actually had a chat with him a few months ago. Warned him to stay 100 feet away from you. You went to see him? Yeah, I promised to protect you. Callahan kissed my forehead. By the way, the firm offered me a 3-year director contract in Paris. Do you want to come with me? Eat actual croissants and walk around Montmartre? I will go anywhere with you, I smiled. A month later, we were on a flight to France. I looked out the window at the shrinking Chicago skyline. This time, I truly was starting a brand new life. 6 months later, sitting in our flat in the Marais district, I received a postcard from Carmel by the Sea. Greer and Kellen had just tied the knot. Sloan, expecting you both for our 1-year anniversary. Be happy. Callahan walked up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Let's do 3 years here. Then head back to the States and think about starting a family. What do you think? I nodded. Yes. We'll build our own home. One built on love and mutual respect. Our own home. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A notification from the bank about an incoming wire transfer followed by an iMessage from an unknown number. The final debt is paid. I'm sorry. I wish you happiness. V. What is it? Callahan asked. Nothing important. I deleted the message, blocked the number, and locked the screen. Let's go for a walk. Let's go. We walked out onto the sun-drenched cobblestone streets of Paris, holding hands tightly, stepping forward into our shared happy future.